Well, with me now to take a closer look at tomorrow's front pages is the podcaster and broadcaster Olly Mann. Right, Olly, let's get straight on to the Daily Telegraph.
Yes. Well, this is the biggest story tomorrow on a theme. The theme being, essentially, if I may say, that the Conservative media attempt tomorrow, in every possible way that they can, to do down Nick Clegg's chances at the leadership debate. I mean, that's very clearly what's happening here, in my opinion. But the Telegraph story is the one I think that stands up the best. The story is that in 2006, when Nick Clegg wasn't the leader of the Liberal Democrats, he was taking personal donations into his bank accounts from three sort of wealthy businessmen, known Liberal Democrat supporters. Now, these donations were actually declared by the Lib Dems. It's just that they should have really gone into a central Lib Dem pot, and they didn't. They went into Nick Clegg's personal bank account. Now, the Lib Dems tonight, as you've been saying, have been denying that there was any sort of improper dealings here, just that they should have gone into a central account. And I kind of think it reminds me a bit of that story about Gordon Brown's cleaner. Do you remember that? When the expenses scandal began. Yes. You know, they kicked off the Telegraph with that story because he was the Prime Minister, so in a sense that should be the most outrageous. But of course it wasn't the most outrageous story. He was sharing a cleaner with his brother, and it's a bit like that. The reason this story is on the front page is because Nick Clegg is the biggest story in town, not because the allegation is really all that scandalous.
I quickly nip through the Telegraph also has a story here that
another anti-Clegg
lobbied for lax EU bank laws. That's back when he was a European Union MEP.
That's right. So we've got 2006 MEP. When he's taking money, and then 2004 when he was lobbying for RBS. Okay. Wait for it. There's a story that goes back 10 years before that in a minute to try and smear Nick Clegg.
Okay, we'll try and get to that in a second. Let's hope we have time for that, because we must whiz on. David Cameron down the bottom of the Telegraph's front page there to focus on the camera.
That's right.
This is Prime Ministerial debate tomorrow. Focus on the camera? What does that mean?
Well, this is all to do with Nick Clegg talking straight down the barrel during those election debates last week. And a lot of people saying that, you know, he was perceived to be the winner because he was perceived to be the most in control. He was perceived to be the one who sort of most believed what he was saying and talking most directly to the people at home. And the Conservatives, as a lot of pundits have, attributing that to the fact that he spoke directly down the camera lens and are saying David Cameron should do the same. I'm sceptical that that was the only thing that people warmed to. I think the plague on both your houses thing kind of had an important part to play too.
Right, let's whiz on.
Yes.
Another important pillar of the Tory press, the Daily Mail, and guess who they're going for?
That's right. I mean, extraordinary. They don't even use the word Nick on the front page, just Clegg. I mean, a week ago, Daily Mail readers wouldn't even know who Nick Clegg was. Now he's Clegg. But like I say, this story goes back to sometime, we're not sure, between 1999 and 2004. But they've dug up some old article he wrote or something he said in a corridor once that was documented. It's not clear, we've only got the front page. But in any case, he made some comments, according to the Mail, when he was working in the European Parliament, which, as I say, was a long time ago, that Britain suffered delusions of grandeur because, having thwarted the Nazis, we somehow believed that our role in Europe was more important than Germany's. Well, I think he'll say similar things tonight, and I think a lot of people probably believe that. What the Daily Mail's trying to do is what they did with reason to Nick Griffin, which is conflate the word Clegg and the word Nazi. Now, from a paper that has Richard Littlejohn twice a week talking about town hall Nazis, to be telling us that you shouldn't misappropriate the language of the Second World War, I think is a little hypocritical.
OK. Nice picture on the front page of the Daily Mail of a friend of mine.
Well, that's always nice, isn't it?
Katie Derham,
who needs
apparently
Facebook?
is defecting from ITV to the BBC. There's a story we must investigate a bit more thoroughly.
I'll look into that.
Whiz on quickly. Guardian. Which bit of the Guardian are you on? Oh, it's the Tories and the gay MP bit, is it?
That's right. Well, actually, this is, I think, a fairly minor issue, but the Guardian's right. Of course, they're gunning against Cameron for tomorrow's debate, so they found an area where he is a little bit flimsy, which is gay rights. He always comes out very much in support of gay rights, but, you know, although he gave his interview to the Gay Times, he, well, for want of a better phrase, he sort of balls it up. He was a bit sort of flippant and a bit frightened by it and a bit confused. Then, you know, he talks about supporting rights for gay people, but Chris Grayling had this whole disaster the other week where he was taped saying that B&B owners should be allowed to discriminate against homosexual couples, in his opinion, although that's not how he voted. Well, now the story The Guardian's saying is David Cameron's aware the parties they've allied themselves with in Europe don't have the most, well, let's be honest, the most Blairite policies on homosexuals. So he's sending off a gay shadow minister to convert them to his way of thinking.
OK, talking of shadows, there's Gordon Brown in the shadows as the picture there. But let's not worry about that too much. Let's worry about this story at the bottom here. Fury as airline refuses to pay stranded passengers' costs. Which airline could we be thinking about?
Yeah, well,
which one would it be?
This is the one that charges you £1 for a seat and then £29 for all the trimmings. This is Ryanair, of course. Michael O'Leary, flamboyant. I actually find him quite an entertaining presence in the news because he does like to speak out. But really, this time, you know, there's up to 400,000 passengers, they're saying, might have been stranded, not because of Ryanair, because of the volcano. But he's now saying, even though it's against European law, Ryanair will not refund people for the hotels and food and stuff that they've incurred whilst they've been waiting in airports. And I think that position is reasonable. And a lot of people, especially at a time of recession when we know airlines are struggling, might actually say, you know what, Ryanair couldn't do anything about the volcano. But to come out and say it in this very finger-pointing way, I'm going to take you to court and see what happens, well, only Michael O'Leary could do that.
Only Mr. O'Leary indeed. Financial Times, back to Nick Clegg bashing.
Yes, this is Ken Clarke bashing Nick Clegg. He's actually essentially saying that the country will need to be bailed out by the IMF if there's a hung parliament, i.e. if you vote for Nick Clegg. I mean, I'm not an economist, I don't know, but I mean, what the last few years has shown is that no one's an economist and no one knows. And as Vince Cable has pointed out here, when the pound... when the Tories were polling at their strongest, the pound was at its weakest recently. So there's not necessarily any proof there's a correlation between the Tories doing well and the pound doing well.
Right, we've got about half a minute left, I think, quite literally. Ollie, just look at the Times quickly. Just back to David Cameron again.
Yeah, well, to be fair, there's no Nazi slur here. This is just a paper that likes David Cameron, trying to do a good thing for David Cameron, making him look authoritative. And, you know, he looks businesslike and it's a reasonable interview with him. So well done, the Times playing fair. But that's essentially all it is. Again, similar sentiments to Ken, saying you'll be in trouble if you vote Lib Dem.
Olly Mann, very grateful to you. Thank you very much indeed.